Tonight on Cosmic Cantina, with the recent discovery of the Dragon Mad Hen in China, we all jumped at the opportunity to go crazy into the larger-than-life world of giants. We interview Andrew Collins to get his take on this amazing discovery and also hear about his latest research. Are these big boys merely the stuff of ancient myth and legend, or could there be some validity to them? Ancient bones, Native American folklore, and giant DNA. Grab yourself a cold one and join us for some tall tales at the Cosmic Cantina. I'm your host, Melissa Tittle, and every week I go to my favorite bar, Cosmic Cantina, and kick back with my co-hosts, Josh Golombeski and Matt O'Connor. We talk about aliens, Bigfoot, ghosts, ancient cultures, and anything from the unseen world that needs a little illumination. Welcome to Cosmic Cantina. I'm your host, Melissa Tittle, and tonight we have a special brew by my dad's beer, Bohemian Rhapsody. It's pretty good. What do you guys think?
I'm trying it live on the air for the first time.
I'm going to bust this open on camera. If this pours all over my computer, I'm just going to lose my shit. Oh, we're good.
Oh, we're good.
I don't know what I was expecting, but it's good. It's really good. It's a lager.
Yeah.
It's the Bohemian Rhapsody lager.
It's my dad's
5.1
special recipe. He grows his own hops, and him and my mom drove all the way from Minnesota across the border to give us beer. Illegally. I said it on air. Thanks, Dad.
Hey. Cheers, old man and Mrs. Tittle. I'm about to taste the the Tittle Brow. Oh, it does have some...
to the Tittles!
I forgot about your warning about the floaties in there, but it'll add to the texture.
Yeah. Little brewer's yeast. Never hurt anybody.
Yeah.
Smooth.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
I like it.
I'm sorry you can't taste Old Man Tittle beer. It's not available in stores, but we just want to share a little bit of family stuff.
Not yet.
Not yet.
It's coming.
Should be coming to a store near you. In the meantime, there's, as you know, tons of UFO stuff coming out, so I just want to give it to Josh. What's the update?
Oh, yeah. You know, the UAP report dropped on Friday, and for those in the community, it was a big nothing burger, but also historic and really important in a lot of ways. The U.S. government just admitted they don't know what a lot of these incidents are, and they're highly unusual, not ours. Today, Jeremy Corbell, filmmaker, who you've probably heard of before if you're in the space at all, dropped another video today that just hit Twitter and came out of Mystery Wire 2 with George Knapp. And it's another video of anomalous lights. This has supposedly come from the 2019 Omaha incident, which he's already released the radar footage for, and then the I think the flare footage, FLR footage, however you pronounce that, of the UFO bobbing
Flare,
and going underwater. So it's the third video. It's highly compelling. The video itself isn't the most amazing UFO video you've ever seen, but the fact that it's been verified that it came from a group on that carrier fleet is highly interesting.
All right, tonight we're talking about giants. I'm interviewing Andrew Collins on the massive head that was found in China. What do you guys got?
Well, I, leading off from that interview, went into the mythologies of giants and how that relates to actual possible history. But I mainly concentrated on the Native American tribes, and they seem to have many tales of giants. So those were kind of interesting.
What do you got, Josh?
Matt sent me a trailer of a show about giants where there was a line in it about people selling giant DNA on the black market, and I was like, I'm in! So I watched that.
Yes!
I thought this was right up Josh's alley. Fair up his alley.
I loved it. It was great.
All right.
It was fun. I don't know if it's very...
We're talking about big heads, Native American legends, and Josh found some DNA of giants. I don't know what happens to you when you take this DNA, but I bet you just kill it.
I immediately injected myself with it.
Big dick energy.
That's how you got to bring it. You got to bring it.
Cool. I like it. So we have literally been talking about UAPs and UFOs and aliens for months now, and we just want something new. And then all of a sudden, it happened in the news. The Guardian posted an article that says, massive human head in Chinese well forces scientists to rethink evolution. Now listen to this.
Ooh,
this is super
that's a
cool.
headline.
And I have an amazing interview with Andrew Collins, so we'll get to that. Just want to go through this article a little bit. Dragon Man's skull reveals new branch of family tree more closely related to modern humans than Neanderthals. Discovery of a huge fossilized skull that was wrapped up and hidden in a Chinese well nearly 90 years ago has forced scientists to rewrite the story of human evolution. Analysis of the remains has revealed a new branch of the human family tree that points to previously unknown sister group more closely related to modern humans. Now, you can check out this article. Of course, we will post it so you can see it. Now, what they're saying is an international team led by the Hebei Geo University in China, hopefully I didn't murder that, drew on geochemical techniques to narrow down when the skull came to rest in this area. And they dated the bones to at least 146,000 years ago. Now, what's unique about this skull is the combination of primitive and more modern human features, particularly the face. So it's not like this, brunt, brute, like we think of Neanderthal type person or species. It has these kind of delicate features at the same time of the Homo sapien, which is really unique. The researchers also said that this skull belonged to a male about 50 years old, who would have an impressive physical specimen. He had a huge wide nose, allowed him to breathe huge volumes of air, indicating a very high energy lifestyle with sheer size. And what this sheer size would have helped him withstand the brutal cold winters in this region. The backstory is really unique. The Chinese found it in 1933, but they hid it from the Japanese. That's why it was in this well for 90 years. But this...
Oh, that's so crazy. Like, how many stories like that exist out there, How many more things are going to be unearthed one day? God, I love that so hard.
Yeah. Well, and also, here, I'll just read what it says here in the article. The skull appears to have a remarkable backstory. According to the researchers, it was originally found in 1933 by Chinese laborers building a bridge over the river in China's northernmost province. During the Japanese occupation, to keep the skull from falling into Japanese hands, it was wrapped and hidden in an abandoned well and resurfaced only in 2018 after the man who hid it told his grandson, right before he died.
Ooh.
That's pretty cool, right?
Wow.
But this is such a unique thing because it kind of gets into the mythology of giants, right? Like these kind of human, like not Neanderthal, but huge humans that kind of ran the planet. And of course, we have them referenced in the Bible. We have them referenced in different mythology. Some are good, some are bad, right? Some of them eat people. Some of them are helping people. We've covered giant stories before. But this is actual evidence of this new sister group of Homo sapiens. So I interview Andrew Collins, who's been following this story. He is a science history writer. He's been investigating the origins of human civilization for over 3 decades. He's noted as an explorer and a co-discoverer of a massive cave complex beneath the Giza Plateau. He's on Ancient Aliens. He's on Gaia shows. He's amazing. So he has a unique perspective on this story. Welcome, Andrew. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Hi, Melissa. Yes, it's exciting times and lots of new discoveries right now.
It sure is. So let's talk about this skull. Now, I introduced you and kind of said all of your research, but one of the major things that you've had your finger on the pulse is the Denisovan study. And proving that or connecting that to some of your research of the giants. So how does this massive skull connect possibly to the study of Denisovans?
Well, I mean, we have to really go back to 2010 with the discovery of the Denisovans. This came from just a small finger bone that was found in a place called the Denisova Cave in Siberia. And the DNA suggested that it belonged to a brand new species, one that was related to the Neanderthals, but that was different enough for it to have gone through its own development in physiognomy, but also in material culture. And what was so interesting is that in the same layer that this bone was found, the archaeologists found evidence of this incredible high-tech, basically, sophisticated artifacts, including something that's come to be known as the Denisovan bracelet, this beautiful greenstone bracelet that has evidence of high-speed drilling, beautiful polishing, whatever. In other words, whoever created this was a very sophisticated mind. But the other thing that came out was that teeth were being discovered that were later confirmed to be of this same, new species that had been found from DNA. And this came from very large teeth that were being found in the cave, large molars. And I remember looking at this at the time and thinking, I wonder if the Denisovans are, extremely large individuals. And there were a few statements to this effect from the geneticists that were working on this. And I started to link the idea of this high technology and the existence of these people that came to be known as the Denisovans after the Denisova Cave with the giants of legend. And then after this, a huge skull was discovered off of the coast of Taiwan in somewhere called the Penghu Channel. And this had teeth almost identical, and it was a jawbone, and it was of huge size, giant size. And then another jawbone was discovered in somewhere called the Bashiai Cave in the Tibetan Plateau, on the Tibetan Plateau, back in 1980, and was recently confirmed to be Denisovan. And all of this was coming together to suggest that the Denisovans were not just incredibly sophisticated, but of immense size. And when I mean by that, I mean possibly 6 to 7 feet tall and arguably even bigger than that. And this, of course, I wrote about in articles and books. But then suddenly we have the discovery of this extraordinary skull in China, in the extreme northern part of the country, very close to one of the major river arteries of the whole of Eastern Asia, which is the Amur River. And the thing about this skull is that it's extremely large. It has what we call archaic features. And what it means by this is huge brow ridges. It's quite wide. It has a big nose, opening for a nose. And I mean, in size, it's massive. It's one of the biggest skulls that's ever been discovered, certainly from, an ancient age.
And it's also more human than it is Neanderthal. So the thing is, most people think of the ridged brow as being something that's a Neanderthal, but they have linked this to more a connection to human.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is that the reason why it's connected with humans is because the chances are that the Denisovans who occupied the area of Siberia, the Tibetan Plateau, and now we're pretty certain, parts of China, would themselves have evolved much closer to our own most ancient proto-human being ancestors. And the reason we can say this is because there is another aspect to this from another discovery that was made recently in Israel. And this was another skull at a place called Gesher Ramla in the country, a skull which is almost identical in age to the one that was found in Harbin, the so-called Dragon Man. And the archaeologists, the geneticists that have been working on this Israeli skull, not only have linked it with incredibly sophisticated culture going on in Israel, a place called the Kezem Cave, around 400 to 200,000 years ago, but what they are saying is, look, this looks almost identical to this new Dragon Man skull from China, and that they may both have evolved from the same common ancestor.
Wow.
But the important thing about what's happening in Israel is that the very meager evidence of these archaic humans there that were producing this incredible sophistication, including creating the earliest shamanism anywhere in the world, have teeth that are very similar to modern human teeth and are our most ancient ancestors. So what I've proposed in articles and will be in a book I'm doing at the moment, will be out next year, is to show that there's a possibility that when the proto-Denisovans left Africa, probably around 400,000 years ago, they moved through the Levant, what is today Palestine, Israel, Syria, and they mixed with these more modern human-looking people and created hybrids, and that these hybrids then moved into Central Asia, Eastern Asia, and to Siberia, and that the dragon man skull is in many ways a hybrid both of the Denisovans and these proto-human beings, and that's why it has both these modern and archaic features at the same time.
Wow, that is so cool. Okay, so I have to ask, because people listening are probably thinking, "Oh my God, it's called Dragon Man," right? We get into the reptilians and the Dracos and all that kind of stuff. But from your standpoint, as somebody who studies archaeology and mythology, why would they name this skull, this massive skull found in China, Dragon Man?
Right. Well, very close to where the skull was found is a river called the Songaya River, and this is a branch of a much bigger river called the Amur River in Siberian. But in the Manchurian language and the Mandarin language that's spoken in the area, it's known as the Black Dragon River, which is Heilongjiang. And this black dragon is the subject of a very interesting legend associated with the area where this skull was found. The story goes that a woman in ancient times gave birth to a child that was clearly not human, and it was like a dragon, and the husband decided that he would kill this creature, so it escaped out through the window, and only the tail was cut off of this creature. So we've got a dragon that hasn't got a tail. It went down to the local river and then had a battle with another dragon, a white dragon, and they both rolled over, and eventually there was a victor, and it was the black dragon, and the black dragon gave its name to that river. But what's so interesting is that same black dragon is said to be like an ape dragon, like a primate dragon. In other words, although it's a dragon by name, it looks like some kind of distorted, weird-looking human. And I believe that there's a very good chance that the black dragon of this region is an abstract memory of the Denisovans, of which the Dragon Man skull is the best example, the face of a Denisovan for the first time.
Wow, that is amazing. It's as if the clues were there the whole time. The mythology of each area really does tell a significant story of our ancient origins.
Well, it does. And, if we accept that the Denisovans were of immense size, then the fact that they would have been different to most other members of the human population around, our own ancestors, means that the chances are they are going to be remembered in myths and legends. So they are going to become, abstract forms like dragons and creatures and demons and ogres. And we find this, for instance, on the Tibetan plateau, where they found this jawbone of a Denisovan. Here you have stories about before the modern humans came into the Tibetan plateau and formed the first dynasties. The plateau was occupied by these giants and ogres who had their own dynasties, ruled the place, and then the modern humans came in and took over the show, basically, and probably got rid of them. And it's the same everywhere. You find stories of giants, for instance, in Siberia, who were said to be the first people to create irrigation. They made the first bridges, the first stone houses, the first musical instruments. They were the ancestors of some of the tribes and clans of the region, and so on and so forth. I mean, in Southeast Asia and Southern Asia, you have the Rakshasa, these giant demon forms. who clearly are like these very ugly human beings. And I think that they also are abstract memories of the Denisovans and their presence in these regions.
Interesting. Well, we could just keep talking about the idea of large, giant-like humans, but we have a limited amount of time. So we'll have to bring you back. And by that time, considering all the discoveries that are happening, there might be something new to this story.
Thank you very much.
Wasn't that really interesting, the mythology that he connected together with the fact that they were calling this the Dragon Man, the Dragon Man skull? That because we've heard those stories, right, throughout all history books, mythology in the history books, talking about how a woman gives birth to a non-human baby, and some of those stories suggest that they were giants or some kind of mutation of another species. I just thought that was really interesting, and the fact that that story is told over and over in every culture, every religion. It's, I don't know. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, it's like the Nephilim that came down and had sex with the human ladies, and they gave birth to big giant people, and it killed the ladies in birth because they were so big, apparently.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, there's that whole story. There's
That got dark.
Yeah, and that's also in the Sumerian.
In the Bible, really?
Also, that's relevant in Sumerian texts. They talk about the same thing. These bigger gods having sex with they like the human women, and then they gave birth to this new species. There's not a lot of that verbatim in ancient Egypt, but the fact that all these beings are carved so largely, there's this idea that it's because they were that size. I don't necessarily believe that, but that is kind of this idea that they were like this giant race of gods, if you will. So the idea of giants is an old tale, but it's not just for ancient Sumeria, ancient Egypt, the Elohim, the Watchers, that kind of thing. There's also several tales on this side of the world, right, Matt?
This is correct. So like I said at the start of the show, dived into a collection of Native American stories from the Americas, and they have these cool old tales. It's hard to say whether they're just kind of like their mythology and their stories, but they sort of talk about these things as if it really happened. So here's like a handful of them, and I'll just kind of race through them. All right, so the first tribe I jumped into was the Choctaw tribe, and I guess they're from the Tennessee, Mississippi area, and they told of a race of giants that once inhabited the area that they live in, whom their ancestors fought with when they arrived through their migration from the west. And it seems to be a common theme with these things too, is that these ancient American cultures seem to do battle with these giant people again and again. Huh. And specifically for whatever reason, they all seem to describe them as white man. And this is obviously pre colonization of America.
Wait, hold on a second. Can you imagine if this is all true, this happened, and then Christopher Columbus arrives, or whoever they met, and they're like, isn't he a lot smaller than the other ones?
Right? These guys aren't scary at all. Anyway, so
smallpox. All right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No bueno. So these guys referred to these race of giants as the Nuhualo, and they described them as being of a wonderful stature.
Hey.
So I guess they were kind of like wonderful looking as well. No, they were just big people. So the Choctaw tribe described these Nahualo as cannibals, and they said the tribe members of the Choctaw actually, killed these Nahualo whenever the opportunity arose. Again, this white race of giants that were always described as cannibals as well, which is interesting. They always ate people.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. There's the the group of the tales of the giants that eat people and they're destructive, and then there's also, friendly giants, like, jolly green giants.
Yeah. I like those giants.
Yeah.
So the Comanches had a group of people. I don't think they ever had a name for them. But there's this Chief Rolling Thunder of the Comanches, and they were from the Great Plains. He gave the following account of an ancient race of white giants, and this was in 1857. He said, "Innumerable moons ago, a white race of men, 10 feet high and far more rich and powerful than any white people living now, here inhabited a large range of country extending from the rising to the setting sun. Their fortifications crowned the summits of the mountains, protecting their populous cities situated in the intervening valleys." So they had this huge civilization there, apparently, as well.
The mound builders.
Yeah, so that does come up, actually, yeah. So the chief explained that this race forgot justice and mercy and became too proud. The Great Spirit wiped them out, and all that was left of their society were the mounds still visible in the tablelands. So yeah, that pops up as well.
It's very similar to the Atlantis tale. Like, they got too powerful, so God came in and Zeus came in and blew it all up.
So the Navajo writes of the... they told stories of this group of tribe of people called the Starnake people. A regal race of white giants endowed with mining technology who dominated the West. They enslaved lesser tribes and had strongholds all through the Americas. They were either extinguished or went back to the heavens, which is interesting. Right?
Yeah.
Aliens? I don't know.
Aliens, propulsion,
Wild speculations?
technology.
It's definitely
And
aliens.
I got to add that this article that I grabbed this from, I can't necessarily fact check a lot of this stuff. So I'm just going with the fact that this article has this all correct and they've done their due diligence and everything is fine.
Matt, we're talking about giants. We're talking about giants.
True.
Okay.
True.
All right, continue.
Oh man, if you knew what I was about to
first
tell,
on this.
like you would not care.
This is from the Manta people of Peru. Manta, indigenous people. And they have reports concerning giants in Peru who landed on the coast at the point of Santa Elena. And the natives relate the following tradition, which has been received from their ancestors from very remote times. They arrived on the coast in boats made of reeds, as big as large ships. A party of men of such size that from knee downwards, their height was as great as the entire height of an ordinary man. So basically an ordinary one of these people stood to about their knee height. So these guys were big boys.
Yeah, that's a joke.
Their limbs were all in proportion to the deformed size of their bodies. And it was a monstrous thing to see their heads with hair reaching to their shoulders. Their eyes were as large as small plates. This is an interesting note. The guy who wrote about this said, the sexual habits of the giants were revolting to the natives.
What?
And heaven eventually wiped out the giants because of those habits.
What did
Again,
they do?
like a story of like...
Yeah, do you
know,
have
it just says they were
specific
revolting.
details of
I
said
want
habits?
details.
Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
details.
I mean,
What kind of
probably
article is
something
this?
worse than a reach around, I would imagine. But again, another
Bestiality.
story of them being wiped out by some, god-like entity because they were being naughty. Okay, so this brings me to the tale of, and it's interesting that that first group said they built boats out of reeds, because then we come to the Paiutes, the Paiute Indians, and this gets me to the old Lovelock Cave story. But the more I dug into this, the more aggressively disappointed I became with the whole story.
Oh no! I love
I know.
love Lovelock Cave. That's such a
I know.
cool story.
The story is pretty cool, and it's still, to a point, the ancient American story about this cave and the whole battle that took place is somewhat accurate, but we'll get into why it's not quite as exciting as I want it to be.
You know what? It's real. That and the Black Knight.
And that's all
real.
we need to know.
It's real.
It's just real. So so the Paiutes were a Native American tribe indigenous to this part of Nevada, where the Lovelock Cave is. Interestingly enough, it's about 50 miles, Melissa, from the Pyramid Lake, which you talked about in a previous episode, where strange shit went down.
Yeah, just to talk about that, just briefly. Pyramid Lake is supposed to be kind of like a vortex area. There's lots of weird stuff, ghosts. People hear voices. People disappear. They have like these tales where the lake eats children or something. But there's all this awful, mysterious things that go on at the lake, and this is only 50 miles from there. So that whole area has some kind of mystique, if you will.
It's evil. Evil. Anyway. Okay, so the basic story goes of this Lovelock Cave. So the Paiutes, they have this oral tradition that they told about. They actually told to the early white settlers when they first came. That they had to deal with this race of red-haired, pale-skinned giants that apparently they referred to as the Siteka or Saiduka. And this translates to Thule eaters in the northern Paiute language. The Thule is a fibrous water plant, which according to legend, the giants wove into rafts, again, like that Peruvian tale, to escape the attacks of the Paiute. So all these tales, oddly from, fairly different parts of the world. Well, they're all in the Americas. Anyway, but they all seem to line up. These things seem to line up, which is interesting.
Yeah, I get it. There's a connection going on there. We got to pay attention to it.
Yeah. You get it. This guy gets it.
Yeah, well, I mean, but here's the thing. You kind of poo-pooed on the mythology with the Chinese head and saying, it's a mythology. But the thing is, they found an actual giant head where they exactly talked about how the dragons battled each other at that river. So there.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think myths are like science fiction. It's all what's real, and we're just coming to realize it. Like everything from our past is coming to be true. So,
oh God, I
think
hope
all
not.
these I think all these myths are real. Not all of them. Not every myth in the world is real, but like a lot of them. Like I don't know, man. Be careful what you don't believe, because you might wake up one day and ancient dragons and giants are going to be real, and there's going to be proof of it. So, careful what you don't believe.
Yeah.
And you're going to be lunch, Matt.
I can't wait for
We're
that
going to be on the Black Knight floating away while you're like being eaten by a giant that you're
you off drinking tittle beer. It's going to be great.
Tittle beer.
Dying.
Yeah.
You and your ashy skin getting killed by a giant.
You guys can float away in the Black Knight all you want. That's fine. Anywho.
Okay, continue.
Break down the sex cave. What are we talking about?
Here's the story. So, this tribe of apparent giants, they were cannibals, and they used to steal people in the night and eat them. They were driving the local tribes, not just the Paiutes, but several other tribes in the Nevada area, driving them bonkers. Bananas, I tells you, because they were, eating them, which is annoying, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's irritating. So one day, the story goes, the tribes all got together. And this would be an awesome movie, by the way. I'd fucking watch the shit out of this. All the tribes got together, and they're not. I don't know if they're warring tribes or they're relatively friendly or whatever, but they were all like, let's put our shit aside and go fight these, freaking cannibals.
Yeah, man.
So basically,
I'm all in.
They all came in on this tribe and chased them down and killed a whole bunch of them, and basically chased them to this Lovelock Cave in Nevada. The giants took refuge inside this cave, and the tribes were, they actually set up wood and all sorts of like kindling and stuff on the outside of the cave, and they threatened to light it on fire if they don't come out. So they actually, according to the story, even offered them, look, if you stop eating people, come and join us and be peaceful, we'll let you go. They even gave them a chance. Apparently, nothing. They said nothing. They didn't want to come out, so they were like, fuck you guys then. We offered. We can't do any more than that. We're going to burn the shit down. So they start burning all this wood and kindling and stuff in the front of the cave, and it starts filling with smoke and flames and stuff. Several of these giants apparently ran out of the cave, and they were just like destroyed in a flurry of arrows. So I don't know how serious they were about, hey, come and join us, guys. We'll be bros. Because they just destroyed them as soon as they came out of the cave.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And the rest apparently were either burnt alive or asphyxiated within the depths of the cave.
Wait.
So that's the basic story, right?
Before you go on, I mean, just before you go on, just really think about it. Like, if giants existed and they were a minority, and it was like modern times, of course we would wipe them out, right? They're a huge threat. They're walking around, killing people, doing crazy shit. Of course, why wouldn't we wipe them out? Like, of course we'd get rid of them from history. Be like, get these demon creatures out of here. I'm not saying they're from another planet or not. What if they just existed as tall people? Of course we would do that. Like, why not?
Well,
you're defending yourself.
Eating people.
Yeah, they're just cannibals.
Fornicating in disgusting ways, apparently. I
know.
Get out of here.
Too many bro jobs.
But,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Andrew Collins actually writes about this in his book on Denisovans, and why did these big race of people, you think that they'd be able to defeat the humans, but the fact is that humans would band together, just like you talked about, and that's what propelled them as a human civilization to take over these other species that these possible like really giants.
Wow.
That's like his theory that he talks about in that book.
Wow.
Right.
Some other people talk about that too, but that's how humans were able to kind of conquer and be like these species on the planet.
Yeah, it's interesting that it shows that like the many, even though these few giants were like obviously of tremendous size and strength or whatever, but they still like enough tribes get together and they were able to like conquer them as well. So that whole pyramid thing. The base is stronger than the top. Whatever. I'm going off base here. All right. So here's where things get a little shady, a little hazy. So from 1911, well, I guess so. Not long after this cave was filled with bats. Bats shit everywhere, and they create guano, which is like a huge deal for people back in the day because guano turns into this stuff called saltpeter. And saltpeter is one of the main ingredients in fertilizers, but also gunpowder. So it was like highly prized. So 1911, a couple of budding young entrepreneurs found the cave to be filled with this bat guano, and they started digging it up. And as they were digging it up, they soon found their work was impeded by the density of artifacts that were mixed throughout the guano. So there was just filled with stuff. So apparently over 10,000 artifacts were discovered.
And they found like giant bones, right? I mean, this is...
Well,
I mean...
did they, Melissa?
Well, here's the thing. The idea of the mounds,
yes,
right, throughout the Midwest. There's some in, I think, upper parts of Florida. Like, all right, so the mound. They have found... I mean, there's so many stories and news articles. I don't know if they're... But these are the mythologies where the giants apparently existed. And there have been people that said that, again, we're in the mythology. They found bones, but they got confiscated by the Smithsonian. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, that's the story, I guess, for why these bones don't exist today.
But it could be discovered in America. I mean, this just happened in China. I mean, there could be somebody that had kept it away from the authorities.
Yeah. I'm not sure what to make of that whole Smithsonian thing. I know that I'm getting off base here again, but there is a story of the guy who first ran the Smithsonian way back in the day, who had this whole sort of manifest destiny proclamation that he wrote up as part of their deal, where they wanted to kind of ignore stuff that didn't fit into what they wanted people to know about American history. Anyway.
Yes.
Quite possible that they fucked with shit. But that's just allegedly, I'll say. I don't want to get sued by the Smithsonian. I don't have the cash. So, after these guys started digging up, they opened it up to universities and stuff. And over the decades, actually, many different excavations took place. Artifacts were retrieved over and over again. But there's no mention of anything to do with giants. Apart from, they did find bones. They found 60-odd mummified bodies. They were all recovered from there. but they're all of average height. Those were some of the things that came out. There's a rumor of there being 2 distinct bigger mummies of at least 8 feet tall. Some of the stories are 8 feet. Some of the stories go to like 12 feet. And again, it's like,
let's call it 10.
So all over the shop. Yeah, we'll just split the difference, yeah. There were supposedly these sandals that were found in there that were like 15 inches long. So pretty fucking big. And that was kind of the only bits and pieces of evidence that really came out. There's kind of rumors, and there's apparently a photo of these sandals as well, but it seems like a fairly recent photo, so I'm not sure if it's legit or not, because it doesn't look like a 1952 photo, that's for sure. There's also some people have, recently gone in and taken photos and videos of what they describe as a handprint in the rocks, which would be interesting if that still survived today. I looked at the video. I'll post it for you. It's really unconvincing to me. I mean, it looks more like that.
Was it a big hand?
Oh, yeah.
You know what they say about big hands?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
I don't.
What is that?
I'm not going to tell you, Josh.
Yeah.
But this hand looks...
I got fat, hairy feet.
hand.
What does that mean?
I don't
You guys
know.
tell
You're a
me.
hobbit.
I didn't read that part of it.
I got hairy knuckles.
I don't know. What does
You know?
that mean?
What's up with that? I don't either. I have no back hair, no
means you're
chest
part
hair,
Bigfoot.
super hairy knuckles. Like, I don't get it. Like, just...
You've got Sasquatch DNA.
Yeah.
right, I do.
I hear it goes
Damn
for a lot
right I
on
do.
the black market too, by the way. So
Speaking of DNA,
So
Matt,
anyway, so there's video evidence of this hand. It looks like pareidolia to me, where something looks like something if you look at it long enough. It doesn't really look overly convincing to me, but people look into it. This guy was like, enhancing the photos, and he reckons he can see fingerprints and stuff in it, and I was very unconvinced with his tales. Okay, so there was actually evidence of cannibalism in the cave. So they did find human bones that had been split down the middle, so they could extract bone marrow from them for consumption. So there was evidence of that, but they had mentioned that there wasn't a whole lot, so it wasn't like a common cannibalism. Didn't seem like a common thing for these people. Maybe they were starving at one point and they resorted to cannibalism. But if these tales from the native Paiutes mentioned that they had to attack this group of giants because of cannibalism, because they were stealing their people, I imagine there's something to that.
yeah.
So, where did all these accounts come from? They seem to stem from this lady by the name of, she was a Paiute Indian. Her name was Sarah Winnemucca Hopkins, and she was actually the first Native American woman to copyright a publication back in the day. So she wrote this autobiography in 1882, so way back in the day. And the book was called Life Among the Paiutes, Their Wrongs and Claims. So she was the first one to tell this story, apparently, that was passed down as an oral tradition. But, so she does not mention giants at all in her story. What she refers to these things as barbarians. So whether people kind of ran with that word and just inserted giants, or whether there was a different meaning for barbarians and maybe they were bigger than normal, but they were kind of these wild people, I guess. It reminds me of that movie. Have you guys seen Bone Tomahawk before with
No.
Kurt Russell's in it? It's pretty cool. There's like this race of Native American giants that start, they're cannibals. It's pretty gross, but it's a pretty awesome movie too. They call them troglodytes, actually. Anyway, check it out. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
So she is basically, this is where this whole story comes from, and she tells the story of Lovelock Cave and how her ancestors joined together with other tribes and chased this group of barbarians, not giants, to the cave and killed them all. They wiped them out. She does mention that she believed that they had red hair because she apparently owns a dress that was trimmed with a fallen cannibal's red hair. and she wrote about this trophy of her people that was passed down for generations to her in this autobiography. But here's the thing about red hair, which I found out recently. Mm-hmm. So red hair, and so darker hair, in general, it turns red post-mortem over centuries with oxidization. So apparently this can also be found in Egyptian mummies. So over the years, the pigment in darker hair, once that sort of bleaches out and oxidization occurs, it becomes red. So that whole thing about this being like redhead giants, but again, it's also mentioned in oral traditions as well, so who knows, Mm-hmm. But anyway, it was kind of like a great story, but at the end I kind of was like, aggressively disappointed. History, come on. It seems again like this story of like, telephone, where someone tells a story and it just kind of grows and gets more and more
I love that game. I would literally tell the opposite of whatever they said. Whatever the story was, I would make something completely new up just to make sure the game really came to fruition. I love that game.
Right.
Fucking giants.
Yeah. I mean, it happens all the time, right? So, and you want it to be as salacious and as amazing as possible so people listen.
Right.
I do it on the show sometimes. I'm going to be honest with you.
I'm never guilty
I
of
embellish.
I mean, it's kind of
well,
fun.
whatever, Matt O'Connor, taking down this great story. I heard Mick West needs a new sidekick. Maybe you should sign up to be his little bitch. Goddamn you and your
I've seen his stuff. I'm not happy with Mick West stuff. Don't worry about that.
No, I know. I'm just giving you shit.
We can talk about that.
I appreciate like taking things down, but just because that story is might not be real about giants doesn't mean that it's all fake. Hopefully the dream is still
They
alive.
just found
it's
a big
based on-
head. They just found a big
There is
head.
It's a giant head.
I know. There is an oral tradition behind it.
You've got an oral
And,
tradition.
like I said, why don't you stick your oral tradition up your fucking... Anyway, Josh, what do you got, buddy? Let's get some wild fucking accusations.
Don't
going.
worry, I'm not going to try to fact
Speculation.
check what I
DNA.
found out.
I wouldn't. Yeah.
Get ready for stuff I can't possibly prove is correct, but it's going to be fun.
Strap in.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. I found, so the trailer that Matt sent me, it was for a series called True Legends. And it the three characters in it are exactly what you think when you think True Legends. Everyone has a goatee or a beard and they're all older. They're wearing cowboy hats. It's awesome. It's so manly. There's even slow-mo shots of them getting off helicopters and shit. It's so great. It's ridiculous, but also really
my
kind of
God.
cool.
Okay.
It encompasses everything you know about giants, everything from the Smithsonian shit to Sardinia. People haven't heard about the island of Sardinia off the coast of Italy. Really cool, interesting megalithic structures there that seem like they're built by giants with giant steps. There's all this cool stuff out there about giants, and this goes into all of it. But I just wanted to find the most salacious, most interesting stuff. So our lead character, his name is Tom Horn. He's a researcher and author, and he could be Sean Connery's brother too. Long white hair and a beard. He's awesome. This guy totally fucks. This guy he's an animal. He's been married 7 times. I don't know that. I did not look that up. Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah.
He's been married 7 times. That was put in the
No,
documentary.
I don't know. I'm telling you, I don't.
Oh.
Because a complete fabrication I made up on the spot. But he seems like no. No, I just made that up.
Like the type.
I have no idea. I'm just saying that's the type of guy he reminds me of, like a man's man, no woman could keep him down. He's just too much of a cowboy. It was more of a compliment than a diss. But anyways, he's great. So all right, next question. What do they go into this? It's the Four Corners region, and they go into, help me guys, I'm bad at pronouncing things. The Anasazi.
Anasazi.
Anasazi, yeah.
Anasazi. Can I call them the Anasazi?
Almost.
I'll try.
No,
I'll
the
try.
Anasazi.
Okay. So what happened to the Anasazi? Who are they? They're the people who built those cliff dwellings all on the walls in the mountains in the Four Corners region. You guys know that, just saying that so the people know. And they seem like very fortified, interesting defensive kind of structures with towers and the whole 9 yards. It's really interesting. So what happened to these people? What happened? Don't worry, it's connected to giants. But what does academia say? They think, which is probably true, they migrated because of drought. That was the main reason. There was a bunch of reasons listed, but drought seemed to be the big deal. So they left. It took them 9 years. But what they left behind does not suggest they left in 9 years. It's kind of like that scene from Aliens where like they get on the base for the first time and they come across the kitchen and it looks like the food's like half eaten and there's still like stuff, like it looks like someone was just there. Kind of that vibe going on, like these baby boards and all this.
Mary Celeste. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what these dudes are saying, like, what, that doesn't make sense. And also in consideration that their towers and stuff were fortified and looked like defensive to fight against an army or something like that. That also weirded them out loud, but they could have just done that for neighboring tribes, but who knows? Okay, going on. There's an interview with a doctor who's super interesting. His name is Dr. Don. I'm not going to pronounce his last name. It is Native American, and I will not butcher it. He's a medicine man, and he's from the Navajo Nation. I don't even think I wrote it down correctly. Like, it'd be so off, I'd be embarrassed.
It was even tough to write down. It was
because I found this video. It is for free on YouTube, but it's also on Amazon Prime. It was weird. There was like no subtitles or information, so like I had to like write it down as they were saying it. It was the whole thing. It was fun though. So this dude, he gives the company line of academia. This is what happened to my people. But then he's like, but listen, let me tell you what my great grandfather said. And this is the story that's really, really crazy. So before modern times, apparently these tribes would get together and do crazy stuff by all coming together to a certain spot and doing ceremonies to open up doorways. At one point, there was an arrival of a reptilian creature, this is straight up what he's saying, that came down and basically seduced them in a way of like, somehow convinced them to do certain rituals and stuff. And some of those rituals were witchcraft and cannibalism, which ties into everything you guys are saying.
What?
Oh,
and with,
dude,
what?
I don't know why I'd stopped watching this show. It got way too crazy for me, but I think I needed to keep watching.
Okay, all right, keep going.
It's the good stuff. So,
Yeah.
so it's taught them these terrible rituals. They already had these kivas, is how you pronounce it, which are kind of these religious places where they do rituals. It was, and all sorts of ceremonies and stuff. So basically, this reptilian being perverted their ceremonies, and they started doing dark stuff. Of course, what happened?
Classic reptilian.
Right.
Yep.
It kind of lines up with some of the modern stories you hear about. So what would happen is these rituals opened a doorway, and what they're claiming is that this giants came out of this doorway and started killing and eating people and attacking the Anunnaki, who then had to escape this and leave eventually at some point. And that is a story coming from Dr. Don's grandfather from the Navajo Nation. So that's like what they don't tell people. And also, these tribes are very secretive. They don't tell like the white man or the Westerner, or what, even though they're Westerners. They're very secretive of this knowledge, but they hold it and they think it's real. But they don't say it to us. But they really think it's real. So I'm going to move into speculation land if I wasn't already there.
Yes.
So off camera, these guys say they told him a lot more, which I just kind of alluded to. And basically, the highest ranking medicine men would gather together and open up a dimensional stargate. But they wouldn't use psychedelics. An actual gate. It would look like flowing water. There's different descriptions for it and everything.
Wow.
And,
Interesting.
And they would communicate. This is opposite. This has nothing to do with the reptilian or the giants, but they were just messing with doorways. So I don't know the origin of the reptilian, but I imagine it's them doing one of these ceremonies and it not going good and getting contact with something they should have. But the contact they would get, and they still do this today. They still get visions of the future. They get messages. One of the things apparently they were predicted was 9/11. Like apparently they were like, no one go near New York on this day because something bad could happen. And other prophecies like that. Yeah, there's all sorts of craziness.
Where is this written down?
This is all coming from
what
they heard
how is this
from these people off camera that we didn't get to see that conversation. That's where it's coming from, Matt.
Okay.
Legit. So
It's just it's fun speculation.
Where is the giants?
Well,
The giants come through the portals?
We're getting there. Hang on.
That's what I'm
Talking
saying.
about reptilians?
This is a good portal. So what I did in the beginning was show you the story of how this reptilian came and they did these bad ceremonies. What they don't tie together is what I'm trying to tie together is that they were already doing these dimensional doorway openings. So what I imagine is they got the wrong thing and then it started going south. And there was no giants coming through until they started sacrificing people and like doing crazy witchcraft. That's kind of the story. I don't know if any of that's real, but it's super fun and cool. One thing people don't realize that most end of days type of like mythologies or prophecies, a lot of them have giants in it, which is, I didn't realize that. That's something that's very common. It's in the Bible, which is weird. And I'm going to end on this, guys. Straight rumorville from our main character, Tom Horn.
Okay.
Who's a character?
He's even got a great name too. I didn't realize his last name is Horn. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, dude.
All right,
It's like
go
Tom
on.
Hardhorn. You know, he's my. I wish he was my uncle.
Yeah.
I do. This guy. By the way, your dad's beer is good. Like it really is. I'm not just saying that because I have
It
to.
is.
You know, like it's really good.
No, it's solid.
So last thing I want to say is this happened to Tom Horn. You can't verify a lot of this, but this is a cool story. He went on Costa Costa a few years ago and was talking about giants, basically. And he was talking about the Iraq War. And what happened was he got an email from someone from the museum from, what's the name of the museum? Sorry. It's the curator from the Babylon Museum reached out to him and said, like, you're right, like crazy stuff's going on, and gave him access to his website and gave him access to a part of his website with all these pictures on. And he said that these pictures were just like every couple seconds of these soldiers entering the museum with the ambassador, who I forget his name at the time, and they went into the museum, and the pictures like are so much, it's like every couple seconds. So he's literally seeing everything. It took him a long time to go through. It's like thousands of pictures, and they go into the building. They go underground to like obviously a holding area for special stuff. They come across all these giant caskets. They start popping them open. There's no giants. There's just a lot of gold and weird stuff and like ancient treasures and stuff that's probably priceless. They keep going, and eventually they get to the back. In the back, they come across these two things, but the person with the camera is kind of weird about it and kind of steps back and doesn't really show what's inside of it. And the soldiers flip it open, and they all start smiling, and then they close them up and they take it out. That story could be completely bullshit, right? But his house burned down
photos.
like days later, and he lost his laptop and his photos.
Wait, whose house burnt down?
That's a
Tom
bummer.
Horn.
So he
Horny's house.
watched these videos and saw these pictures, and then his house burned down?
So what are we implying there? Someone gave him access to a museum that he wasn't supposed to see these pictures, and he saw the U.S. military, the Marines, going after some sort of artifacts or giants in these giant caskets. Mm-hmm. And then he talked about it, and then 3 days later his house burns down. And he's saying it was very suspicious how his house burned down. Yeah, with all the photos.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Tom Horn is making that up, but I'm also not saying that.
That is suspicious. Very suspicious.
It's a fun story. I just love good stories.
Some insurance money.
Who knows what's going on with that hot shot? That all aside, the show is actually good. It covers everything about giants. There's some things that go too far. And by the way, the giant DNA in the black market, that was like one line in the end. They go into DNA a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, they go into DNA a little bit. They talk about DNA and giant DNA. They tie it, but they don't go into like where do you the black market. It's literally like 2 lines in the end. So I was like excited for 40
that's
minutes.
The one thing in
But
the trailer that just
giants
was...
aren't around. So where does the DNA come from? Is there one still alive? I'm confused.
They're pulling it from the secret room in the Smithsonian that
Oh my God.
stored all these fuckers,
Wait,
you know?
But no, but seriously,
Along with photos of the Black Knight. It's all there.
I
Melissa.
knew
my
it.
gun.
I knew it.
hey, you son of a gun. No, in this thing, they have like all these old timers on Sardinia that dug up giant bones a long time ago. They all talk about it. It's fascinating. There's definitely good stuff in here that's really compelling. I just stuck to the crazy stuff that sounded more fun for a podcast. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
All
for sure.
right, I
want to
love
watch
it.
the show now.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we started this with a legitimate find. That is a legitimate find. They did find that head. It's huge.
We didn't end up there, though,
Science.
did we?
They didn't necessarily say it was a giant, but it is a massive head that looks more human than it does Neanderthal. It's quite weird.
He's a big boy.
And they're saying it's a new branch of the human family. That's crazy. And then we went into this whole thing about giants, which is amazing. And then giant DNA, I guess you can still get it. So I don't know. You choose what you want to believe.
It's like tiger penis. It's good for the puts lead in your pencil. You know?
Yeah, works for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay. All right, if you say so.
Great.
every morning.
Great.
All right, guys, have a good night. Be safe out there. Don't get eaten by a giant.
Goodbye.